Hello, today I'm looking at the Majjhima Nikaya number 12, the Mahasihanada Sutta, which is translated as the greater discourse of the lion on the lion's roar, or of the lion's roar. As I said in the previous sutta, lion's roar can also be translated as noble speech. So this is the greater noble speech. And it's quite a long sutta, describing many of the aspects of the Dhamma and the Buddhist doctrine. And to put it in context, from what I gather from reading the sutta, that Buddha at this stage of reciting this sutta is over 80 years old. So he's coming towards the end of his period of teaching. And so it's with this in mind that he's looking back on his past and what he's learnt during his lifetime. So as you can understand, it is quite a long sutta. And the sutta is prompted by the behaviour of a person called Sunakata, and he has left the Dhamma. So he was a member of the Dhamma, and he had Buddha as his teacher. But he left the Dhamma because he doesn't believe that Buddha has been able to show any superhuman activities or superhuman states. And states that the teacher only speaks on beliefs found by his own reasoning and how it leads to the destruction of suffering. So basically saying that Buddha is only a rationalist. Sunakata is preaching this to his fellow citizens in a town called Vesali, and this is heard by one of Buddha's followers, Sariputta, who reports it back to Buddha. And although Sunakata is angry about it, Buddha says that in fact Sunakata is doing Buddha a great service by saying that the Buddha teaches the Dharma to anyone and any followers who practice it. It leads to complete destruction of suffering. So Buddha doesn't feel threatened by Sunakata's actions, but he does. But Buddha then goes on to say that Sunakata will never infer of me according to Dharma. And I didn't quite understand the translation of this phrase. So the infer of me, I think it's a translation of Na Bhavisati. But then in Bhikkhu Bodhi, in his commentary, or audio commentary of this particular sutta, uses the phrase that Sunakata will never have an understanding of the Dhamma, which, I say, makes a bit more sense to me. In that phrase, that Sunakata will never have an understanding of the Dhamma, Buddha then lists the salient points of the Dhamma that Sunakata does not understand or believe. That is the supernormal powers, hearing heavenly and human sounds, and the understanding of greed, hatred and delusion. And Buddha goes on to say there are 10 powers enjoyed by the Tathagata. I'll get that right eventually. The Tathagata. The first one is the possible is possible. The possible as possible. The Buddha understands the possible as possible and the impossible as impossible. That is via right view and wrong view. The Buddha understands dependent origination. The Buddha understands the way leading to all destinations. And I think that's in the audio commentary, Bhikkhu Bodhi says that's referring to the jhanas, Number 4, the Buddha or the Tathagata has an understanding of the world and all its elements, an understanding of how beings have different inclinations, an understanding of the disposition of the 5 faculties of other beings. And the 5 faculties are And again, these are listed in the audio commentary as being faith, intellect, energy, calmness, concentration. The Tathagata also understands hindrances and defilements, cleansing, jhana, liberations and concentration and meditative attainments. The Tathagata can also recollect his past lives. The Tathagata can also see beings pass away, reappear according to their actions, so that's karma. And lastly, number 10, the Tathagata abides in the deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom and destruction of the taints. And summarising this, the Buddha says, if a person believes that Gautama does not have the above, and believes that the Dharma is only arrived at by reasoning, the person will end up in hell. Which Bhikkhu Bodhi in his commentary says, oh, that's a bit strong. But I wonder if the word for hell in the original Pali is niraya, which can be translated as destroy, destruction, misery. So that could be less than as it's translated as hell. It could also mean that with the way passing through the different lives, the samsara, the wheel, that if a person isn't believing, then they're going to not come back in such a good state. So that's what's stated. So after each of the explanations of the doctrine from now on, of the Dhamma from now on, the last phrase is, the person who does not believe will end up in hell. So it also goes, the Buddha then goes on to say that Tathagata has 4 kinds of intrepidity, or as again Bhikkhu Bodhi says in the commentary, 4 kinds of self-confidence, which confidence that Tathagata could not be accused of not being fully enlightened, so he is fully enlightened. The Tathagata could not be accused of not destroying all the taints, i.e. free of taints. The Tathagata could not be accused of removing all obstructions, and the Tathagata could not be accused of failing to teach Dhamma that leads to an end of suffering. And again, as I say at the end of this, anybody who contradicts this is bound for hell. Without fear or timidity, the Tathagata has talked to all 8 assemblies, many hundreds of people. So again, this is he is 80 years old, so he's recollecting all the different people that he's spoken to over his years. So he's spoken to assembly of nobles, assembly of Brahmins, assembly of householders, and again Bhikkhu Bodhi explains in the commentary that nobles, Brahmins and householders makes up the community of his time. He's spoken to an assembly of recluses. He's spoken to an assembly of gods of the heavens, of 4 great kings. And in the notes about what are 4 great kings, the king of the north, the king of the east, the king of the west, and the king of the south. The king of the north rules the reign. King of the east as the upholder of the realm. The king of the west sees all. And the king of the south causes growth. The Tathagata has also preached to assembly of the 33, and the 33, from reading up, is a family, families of a village who communally did good under the leadership of Magda the Good. So they're called the Heaven before 33. Tathagata has also spoken to assemblies of the retinue of Mara and also to assemblies of Brahmas. Again, Buddha finishes up by saying, anyone who contradicts this is bound for hell. And also, Buddha goes on to say that Tathagata knows of 4 types of generation. There's egg-born generation, womb-born generation, moisture-born generation and spontaneous generation, the gods and denizens of hell, and it adds certain human beings. Anyone who does not believe this, anyone who does not believe I know this, says Buddha, will wind up in hell. Also talks about the 5 destinations and paths leading to the realms, which is understood by the Tathagata. These are the ones that one goes through the rebirth or samsara, the cycle, and describes them as being the destination being hell, and gives a simile of it's like being cast into a charcoal pit. Going to the destination of the animal realm, which is alluded to like being thrown into a cesspit. The next one is the realm of ghosts, which is like being on uneven ground with scant foliage, and it's a very hot climate. The realm of the human beings is like being on even ground with thick foliage, so there's deep shade away from the heat. The next realm is the realm of the gods or devas, and that's a mansion, like being in a mansion, which is cool and comfortable. And of course there's the 6th realm, which is nirvana, which is arrived at through direct knowledge and destruction of the taints. And he likens that, or Buddha likens that, to being by the side of a pond and being able to bathe and drink. And that does not happen after death, but happens in the here and now. And finishes that part of the sutta by saying, anyone who does not believe I know this, says Buddha, will wind up in hell, or words to that effect. Buddha then goes on to describe the stages of his life, how he went through the ascetic stage, from starving himself to resting on a bed of nails to avoiding stepping on tiny creatures, coarseness and scrupulousness and seclusion, eating and drinking his own secretions, and a small piece of poetry says, chilled by night and scorched by day, alone in awe-inspiring groves, naked, no fire to sit beside, the sage yet pursues his quest. He goes on to say he lived in a charnel ground. He had also lived on eating 1 cola fruit per day, becoming very emaciated, and lived on eating 1 rice grain per day, also becoming very emaciated. But through all this he did not achieve superhuman states, because it did not achieve wisdom and the complete destruction of suffering. Some say purification comes through the round of rebirth, but Buddha states he has been through most realms except for the realms of the gods of the pure abodes. If he had passed through here, he would never have returned. And he also said that purification comes through a type of rebirth, but Buddha rejects this. Purification comes through a type of abode. Buddha rejects this. Purification comes through a type of sacrifice. Buddha rejects this. Or purification comes through a type of fire worship. It's another thing that Buddha rejects. So, in summary, certain recluses and Brahmins believe that the lucidity of his wisdom dies with the teacher, not so with Buddha. So in conclusion, Buddha says he believes he appeared in the world for the welfare and happiness of many, out of compassion for this world, for the good, welfare and happiness of gods and humans. So that's a brief summary of Majjhima Nikaya number 12. Thanks for watching.